Chapter 2. The faint jingle of keys dawn found me in the armchair by the study window. I hadn't closed my eyes. The city outside the glass was slowly waking up, lighting one light after another, and each one seemed to me a suspicious signal addressed to someone else. A persistent ringing echoed in my ears, a remnant of yesterday's silence, which had turned out to be louder than any scandal. I heard Jessie get up, heard her tiptoe to the bathroom, then to the kitchen. The familiar morning sounds, the creak of a cabinet door, the hiss of the coffee maker, a whisper so as not to wake Sophie. The usual soundscape of my home. But today, every sound was like a click in a combination lock for which I had no key. I walked into the kitchen, pretending I had just woken up. She was standing at the stove, making an omelet. She was wearing my old, faded robe, the one she always stole because it smells like me. That fact used to send a wave of tenderness through me. Now it felt like a cynical mockery. "Good morning," she said, and her voice was husky from sleep. "Real. Did you sleep badly? You look tired." "I didn't sleep, Jess. I spent the night compiling a chronology of your lies in my head, comparing dates, cross-referencing the times of your delays with her work chats, which you so diligently don't show me." "Yeah, couldn't sleep for some reason," I muttered, pouring myself coffee. Hot, bitter, like the truth I was afraid to learn. She turned around, and a sunbeam breaking through the window caught the tiniest dust particles dancing in the air between us. She smiled, and in this morning, makeup-free light, her face seemed as open as it once was. My inner detective sounded the alarm. Careful, the most skillful liars know how to look sincere. It's their primary weapon. "I have another late meeting today," she said, returning to the omelet. "Don't wait for me for dinner. Can we leave Sophie at Olya's?" Olya is our neighbor, a kind woman who often babysits. A meeting, again, on Thursday, the very day she hinted at yesterday. My heart sank and froze somewhere in the pit of my stomach. Of course, I took a sip of coffee. No problem. I watched her. How she carefully placed the omelet on the plates, sprinkled it with herbs. Her hands were steady, her movements precise. Not a trace of nervousness. A professional. I suddenly thought with horror that perhaps she had been lying to me just as skillfully all along, and I had simply been too blind to notice. How many more of these meetings had there been in recent months? How many times had I, content, stayed home with Sophie while she... "Mom!" Sophie flew into the kitchen, saving me from sliding into that dark abyss. Breakfast passed in the usual frenzy, getting ready for school, searching for indoor shoes, last-minute instructions. Jessie kissed me goodbye on the cheek. Her lips were warm and soft. I smelled the familiar scent of her shampoo mixed with the aroma of coffee, and again that treacherous sting of tenderness mixed with disgust. How can you kiss a person you're lying to? How can you split yourself in two so easily? The door closed behind her. The house was filled with silence, tense and vibrating like a string after being plucked. I drove Sophie to school, kissing her goodbye with extra force, as if she were my anchor in this raging sea of uncertainty. Then I went to the office, but it was impossible to work. My brain refused to process code, producing only one obsessive thought instead. What if? During my lunch break, I couldn't take it anymore. I went outside and, shielding my phone from the wind, dialed the number of her agency. I needed to check. A simple, primitive confirmation. "Good afternoon, Vector," answered a cheerful secretary's voice. "Hello. May I speak with Jessie Morrison, please?" I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Jessie, I'm sorry she's not in. She's at an external client meeting all day today until evening." My fingers clutching the phone went cold. "And is Leo in?" "Leo? No, he's at that meeting too. Can I take a message?" The world narrowed to a point. The secretary's voice sounded as if it were coming from underwater. No, thank you. Have a good day." I ended the call. Standing in the middle of the noisy street, I felt like a complete idiot. She hadn't lied. Technically. An external client meeting was that meeting, but she had intentionally omitted the key detail, the detail named Leo. He was with her, right now, somewhere in this city, in some cozy restaurant or a sterile conference room, sitting across from her, looking at her, laughing at her jokes. Maybe their legs were accidentally touching under the table. Maybe it wasn't an accident. Back at the office, I was on autopilot. Colleagues talked. I nodded, agreed, but didn't hear a word. A decision was brewing inside me. Dirty, low, but necessary. I needed proof. Not guesses, not speculation, but ironclad, irrefutable evidence. In the evening, after picking up Sophie from Olya's, we returned home. Jessie came back a couple of hours later. She smelled of the city, cold air, exhaust fumes, and someone else's coffee. Horrible day, she sighed, taking off her coat. The client was fussy. The traffic was a nightmare. I stood and watched her hang the coat in the closet. That very coat, in whose pocket the answer might lie. Her bag, a large leather tote, sat on a chair. Inside was her laptop, her phone, her world. "How was the meeting?" I asked, moving closer. "Long, exhausting." She stretched and her sweater rode up, exposing a strip of skin on her lower back. I used to kiss her there. Now it seemed to me that place might be accessible to someone else. She went to the kitchen to get some water. My heart was pounding as if it wanted to burst out of my chest. This was the chance. Just a few seconds. Holding my breath, I slipped my hand into the pocket of her coat. Empty. Then into the other. My fingers found crumpled tissues, a scrap of a receipt, and something cold, metallic. A key. I pulled it out. It wasn't our key. Not for the house, not for the car. Small, nickel-plated like a key to an office or much more frighteningly to an apartment. It lay in my palm, cold and heavy, like a guilty verdict. I heard her put the glass in the sink. I quickly shoved the key back into the pocket and moved away from the closet as if burned. She came out of the kitchen, wiping her lips. "Is something wrong?" she asked, looking at me. "No, just tired." She came up to me, placed her palms on my chest. Her touch burned like a hot iron. "Sleepless nights lead to no good," she whispered. "Let's go to bed early." In her eyes, I saw tenderness, or pretense. Or was I just seeing things now? That key. It had become the center of the universe, around which all my thoughts now revolved. We went to bed. She turned her back to me, and within minutes her breathing became even and deep. She was asleep, sleeping the calm sleep of a person with a clear conscience, or the sleep of a skilled actress. I lay there staring at the ceiling. The silence was broken only by the ringing in my ears. But now it was joined by the quiet, obsessive jingle of that very foreign key in the pocket of her coat. It jingled in my head, calling me to action. I couldn't stay in that bed any longer. I carefully got up and left the bedroom. The living room was dark. I approached her bag sitting on the chair. To take this final step meant to cross the Rubicon. Before this, I was a suspicious husband. After this, I would become a stalker, a hacker, someone I never wanted to be. I slowly unzipped it. Inside was her wallet, her cosmetics bag, a folder with papers, and the laptop, a thick, matte, silver MacBook, a lockbox holding all her secrets. I took it. It was cold and lifeless. I carried it to the study, sat down at the desk, and opened it. The screen remained black. It was password protected. I tried all the obvious options: Sophie's birthday, my name, our wedding date, the name of the street we lived on when we first started dating. Nothing worked. I sat and looked at the black screen which reflected my distorted face. The password. The final barrier between me and the truth. And in that moment I understood that I desperately wanted it not to work. that I would never be able to guess it, that I would never have to see what was hidden behind that screen. Because if I guessed it, there would be no going back. The kitchen of her lies would turn into a courtroom, and I would be both the executioner and the victim. I took a deep breath and entered the last combination that came to mind. The name that had been haunting me for weeks. The name that I thought could be the key to everything. I entered Leo.